So let's add this. This little step. So and I'm just going to go to my I'm going to start a sketch on this face, right? That's where I want my step to be. Or, I mean, technically I could start, right? I could start a sketch on my bottom face, and my overall height can be 0.59 plus 0.591. It's the same thing. It's gonna, I mean, SolidWorks when material overlaps, it doesn't mind it. But again, you're trying to think about what's the right way to do things, right? You don't want to start a sketch here because your sketch plane should be defined on that face. Yeah.
If it overlaps, like a feature overlaps another one, does it add to math?
No.
Oh, it just like
Yeah.
counts as on
Mass is mass. Again, with overlapping, sometimes if it overlaps and there's an angle, there's fillets, some SolidWorks doesn't like it, stuff like that. So you should try to avoid where parts overlap. Sometimes you'd have to combine stuff like that. It's complicated. So again, starting a sketch here. I'm gonna do a corner rectangle. Right here, there's a note. The hole through the mounting block is centered above the step, while the step is centered along the open face of the block. So again, I can, different way I could have done this, right? I could have defined my hole and then related my center to the hole, or I could have just done it this way, related it to the open space. Let's see, I want my center of the edge related with respect to this edge, right? So let's see, whereas I'm just going to move it on this point to be related with this point. Does that make sense? Sometimes I can zoom in and grab them. Sometimes I like to move them off the screen just to be able to grab the points easier. If they're very close to each other, it's hard to tell which one is which. Good. I know the only thing I need to define, right? Because my overall length is driven by that constraint of where the edges end, right? I started from this edge and I ended it here. They're coincident to that line, or those two lines are collinear. So 1.181. Feature, so fully defined, extrude base, and that's 0.591. So far, so good. I like to do my fillets and chamfers last. I will always build the basic shape, and then I add fillets and chamfers last, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. If I add a fillet and I want to modify something, then if the fillet overlaps, it might give you an error. So I like to do that last. So again, one thing left to do is if I start a sketch on this face, right, left, again, circle anywhere, I don't care. I have this distance, so I have the diameter of it, 394. I want to define, now I need to define it with respect to X and Y, right? It's on one plane, it's a 2D sketch. So I know this distance with respect to the center. So that's 4.969. What else am I looking for? I know, so the height of that bottom. And is 1.772. Got a fully defined sketch. I know it's going through both. So if I do extrude cut, I'm just going to do through all both. So far, so good. Makes sense. So I have two chamfers. I have this one, distance of 0.18 and it's 45 angle. So if I go to features, I'm going to toggle my chamfer. So again, it's a distance, an angle and distance. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to toggle my full preview on. I always like to at least preview what my chamfer or fill look like before I apply it. So I know my distance is 0.118. It's 45 degrees, and it's in applied in two places. Here, here. So my first chamfer done. Again, go back to my chamfer. Different value right here. So it's a 0.591. Again, 0.591 is repeated a bunch of places, right? So if that part actually is parametrically driven by, let's say, I want to make this to be A, right? It's easier if I just go in and change what that A is instead of going back and changing it in 7 different places. Does that make sense? Because right now, if I want that 0.591 to be 0.6 in every single place that 0.591 is used, I would have to change it, right? I would have to go back in basically every single sketch I use to change that. Does that make sense? So
kind of going into your drawing, just take a look at repeated dimensions. And
yeah, but again, if I
can't go that by a rule. But
some of them are not, you're not going to change.
It could be too much, but.
But again, for this, if I look at it and I know that it's being used in 7 different places, if I were to design this, then yeah, I would use an equation right away.
Okay.
Just global variable that I can call it.
What if you define it with an equation and you only want to change 5 of them? Can you decide which surfaces or which dimensions you want to change?
No. Because you made it that
If you
variable.
put that in, you're going to change all of them every time.
Yeah, well, so whatever I don't want to change, I have to unlink it from that global variable. Okay. So let's say I want to keep that 0.591 to be 0.591. I won't link it to global variable A, right? I would link to whatever other 5 I want to link them to, and then keep that one to be 0.591. Does that make sense? If I change global variable A, or whatever that value, or whatever I call it, to 0.6, it's going to change whatever I linked it to. It's not going to, Flowers is not going to ask you, hey, you want to use it here. You told it that this dimension equals A. And when you're telling it you're changing A, it doesn't make sense that you're not going to change that value.
So you can just go to that dimension and replace the A with...
Exactly. At any time that I can say that dimension, I put the equal sign and I put A, right? I can go back, delete that, and put just 0.591. It's driven by an input or a value instead of a global driven variable. Does that make sense? Again, so that it's 0.591 at 45 degree. I think that's about it. I don't think we missed anything. So if I do, let's say we have